This episode of the Patriots Postgame Show is presented by DraftKings.
This is the Patriots Postgame Show presented by DraftKings.
First down,
touchdown.
Dive to the end zone. Touchdown, Patriots.
Join the conversation by calling into the TPX hotline at 855-PATS-500 or email the show at podcast@patriots.com.
Hand off to Stevenson. Runs left, big hole across the 40. Cuts left at the 45. And steamrolls the defender there.
Live from our studios inside Gillette Stadium, here's Matt Smith.
Hey, good afternoon, Patriots fans. Matt Smith with Paul Perillo and Mike Dussault here from our studios at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, where the Patriots have just wrapped up a 40-7 thumping. They were the thumpies by the Los Angeles Chargers, 40-7 in a game that wasn't that close. Patriots now dropped to 3-13 on the year and firmly ensconced in the number 2 slot for the draft. For those who that matters to you, the Chargers, with today's impressive win, are now in the playoffs. 855-PATS-500 is the number. We do want to hear from you, and you can please email us at podcast@patriots.com. Let's go around the horn for a little instant analysis. I'll start on my right. Deuce, how bad was it?
I think this was rock bottom. I know we had some debate about when can rock bottom be, and when can you properly assess when rock bottom is, unless you began the upturn back. But I don't know what next week's going to mean, but it's hard to see it being worse than this. This was non-competitive. I mean, you had no answers for the Chargers offense. You forced them to punt once, and then they scored 7 straight drives. The offense couldn't move the ball. You had one throw from Drake May that he kind of tossed up in a penalty situation, a free play, if you will. And really, other than that, that was about it. So I just thought about this game a lot in the spring and the summer when the schedule came out. Could they be competitive here? These were the games that we thought we wanted to see some signs of life that you could carry over into next year. There's none of that. There's really just nothing really to take positive from this game at all.
I'll add one little thing before I hand it over to my friend here to my left. After the Buffalo game, and they weren't world beaters in the Buffalo game, but there was signs of life in the Buffalo game. There was competitiveness. Yeah. To say that today was a step back is a grotesque understatement.
Yeah.
Grotesque understatement.
And I mean, I think it's been a lot like that this year where they've had a game with some positives and then they've stepped back and had a terrible game. I think this has happened a few times this year. Look, this is who they are. I mean, like you can talk about a couple games here where you were reasonably competitive, but ultimately those were the games that were I'm missing the word of what I'm trying. Those are the games that are against what they really
outliers.
Are. The outliers. Thank you, Paul. I'm so mad I'm getting losing track of my words, but those are the outliers. This is the real team. They don't have the horse, especially on defense. I mean, it's just there's nothing going on there on the defense. Nothing.
Paul, want to challenge any of this?
No, not at all. I think you guys are right, and I would just say, like, at this point, they've played 16 games, and this sounds really harsh, and it is. I just think that when the outlier, as Mike called it last week, I'm sorry, I'm going to chalk that up to the other team more so than anything. Did they play that much different today? I don't know. Maybe, like Matt asked me as we were coming in, Mike, just sort of, was this a tough one for they're playing for their coach? They're playing hard for their coach. Like, I don't know. Like, I think guys are trying. I think there's effort out there. I think they're outclassed most weeks. And the Chargers came to play today. The Chargers were sharp. And I thought offensively, they kind of surprised me a little bit in that, Herbert throws the ball 38 times in basically 3 quarters. He didn't really play in the fourth quarter. I think he was out of the game with 11 minutes left. And I look at them as a little bit more of a conservative approach, but they changed some of the things that they do today. And I think when the other team plays well, the Patriots don't have a lot of answers. So, like, to me, the biggest difference between this week and last week, the Chargers played well and the Bills didn't. Well, I know that sounds really harsh, but that's how I feel.
Well, we said before the Buffalo game that, human nature would be, and when they were in tough road games in L.A., and who was the other road game that they had prior to the Patriots game?
They played San Francisco on a Sunday night game in the snow. Then they had the game against the Rams that was a shootout. Yep. And then they had the Lions game that was a shootout. Like,
human nature
you can't play at that level every week.
Yeah. Correct.
And
so that showed.
Showed. Khalil Shakir has a chance to catch a touchdown in the end zone. Goes off his hands. They didn't go off their hands today. Yeah. McConkey caught it. Johnston caught it. The first drive they had two drops, which was the only reason why they punted.
Correct.
On 2 out of the 3 plays that forced they got a first down. And then they didn't get the second first down when 2 out of the 3 plays were drop passes.
Yep.
One by Johnston, one by McConkey.
Right.
And the rest of the game, they were sharp.
Right.
Maybe Herbert missed McConkey on another touchdown that he could have had later in the game, but by that time the game had long since been decided, and the Patriots had nothing, no answers at all offensively. They couldn't move the ball at all.
This is going to be a tough one to sugarcoat, Patriot fans. We'll do
Yeah.
our best to try to get through this. Fred Kirsch will join us later on. But
I'm
we're
sure
gonna
he'll
kick
come
things
up with
off-
a silver lining.
We're going to kick things off with some historical precedent with the good, the bad, and the injured.
Now it's time for the good,
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
the bad,
Hey, what happened?
and the injured.
You all right, Gay?
Okay, Paul, I'm waiting on it. You got me hooked.
So I would say that my good list only consists entirely of a play or two here or there.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't really have anybody or anything on the good list, that's the precedent that Matt is talking about. I'll just say that Drake May to Demario Douglas, for the touchdown, was a good play by both guys. It was good recognition by the quarterback to know he had a free play.
Good adjustment.
So
by
he
Pop.
just threw it up for grabs, and Douglas makes a really nice adjustment, makes a nice play on the ball for a touchdown.
Yep.
That's the best I can give you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The only positive checks I had, and I'm not saying these are good lists, but I had a check next to Anthony Jennings. He had a run stop,
He
and
did
I
have
had
a set an edge.
and I had a tackle for loss for Isaiah Bolden. Those were 2 plays when it was still competitive that just stood out to me. But that was it. Those were the only 2 I got. What do you got, Paul? Is that what you wrote down?
33, 29.
Flash. Yeah.
I said 33 physical, 29 flashed.
Yeah.
But they were both individual plays.
Yeah, that's all. That was the only positive checks I had. Once you got into kind of garbage time, or where the game complexion suddenly changes, and it's a lot harder to give out pluses when you're chasing, and it's just a different game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got nothing.
And I don't think we should be surprised about that. Let's not sugarcoat it. We can't sit here and just sort of fabricate plays or
Yeah.
players in this game. This was an abject stinker across the board.
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, I leaned left on the good. We'll start the bad to my right, Mike, and my guess is no one's spared.
No, I mean, it's just really a question of where you want to start. I think to me, look, it was disappointing at the beginning when they were just giving up, I think it was 3 straight scoring drives, at the beginning. But after the May touchdown, you felt a little bit like, all right, maybe they stemmed the tide. Maybe
17-7.
Maybe May going out with the concussion, that rattled the team. And now they're, it's 17-7 now. And that was when the defense just allowed them go. Not only do you allow a 4th down conversion, then friggin' what's his face, Ngakwe takes a personal penalty that gives him 15 yards. Just to allow a score in that situation, it's just we can't win. We can't do anything right. Even when there's a small bit of positivity for the team, the defense goes right back out there and watches them go right down the field, takes a stupid penalty to give them extra yards to make sure that they make the field goal. So I know the defense was overall horrible today, and we can, point out any which way you want. But to me, that was just the most unforgivable part of it right there. Was the offense gave you a brief moment to maybe make a stop and to give them a chance to come out at the start of the 3rd quarter and go down and score a touchdown, and it's 17-14. Nope, wasn't meant to be. Not only did they let them go, they took a penalty along the way. I thought that was the part to me that was just really, really aggravating.
Yeah, I would agree 1,000% with Mike. And I didn't think there was much of a chance, but, you get a play, and, I immediately looked at Mike and Evan and I said, 124 left. Because I had this whole thing I was joking. It was 17-0. I was like, all right, you take over with 2.5 minutes left. Here we go. Double score. Get yourself right back in the game. Get back within a score. You score here, get the ball coming out in the second half. Well, they scored, and I looked at the clock and I said, there's still 124 left. They're going to give up points. And they did. And Mike is right. They're on the edge of field goal range, but Ngakwe's got to get a roughing the passer call, which was completely unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. And you make it, a much more makeable field goal, which he just barely made. He just squeaks it over the upright. Maybe if it's 15 yards, might have made a difference. So, yeah, I thought that was a key juncture in the game. I focused specifically today. The secondary was really bad. I just thought there was a wide open receiver on virtually every play. And sometimes Herbert went in different directions with the ball, but for the most part, he was picking out where he wanted to throw, and crossing routes were a problem, seam routes were a problem, deep slot fades were a problem.
Mesh concepts. But can I, in all seriousness,
look at how open these guys are when you start to watch some of these plays. It was just one after another.
I don't want to let the DBs off the hook here, Paul. But is it tough to cover when Herbert does not need to get his uniform clean today? I mean, there was and I was really surprised when I see the games on the NFL Network at 1 o'clock. I know that Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth aren't doing the game. And so there was an obvious bias there. I thought Chris Rosen and Ross Tucker, you guys are in the press box. They did a really good job. Tucker early on in the second quarter was incredibly frank. He goes, they've got the worst wide receivers in the league. They've got the worst offensive line in the league. You don't generally hear a network analyst call out a team like that. Early on after the second series, he goes, look at the pass protection. He goes, the Patriots can't get a lick of a rush on. Paul's right about the defensive backs, but when you hear coaches talk about marrying up the rush and the coverage, there was no rush.
So here's the thing. They don't have any pass rushers.
They can't win one-on-one.
They're supposed to have guys in the secondary.
Fair.
Yeah.
And by the way, this was the case before Gonzalez got hurt, so I don't want to hear that.
Yep.
Gonzalez got beat on a 4th down crossing route just like everybody else did. Jonathan Jones, if I had to pick out one guy who struggled the most today, Jonathan Jones would have been the guy.
We leaned on him as a guy to look for in the pregame show.
Look at this separation.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That's a 4th down play.
Yeah. I mean, you're
supposed to be in his pocket there. Not like that's just too easy. And I know he's sort of like passing him up. It's 4th down.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if they show this,
look at nobody near Herbert.
But look at how open.
Yeah.
I don't care if you have a guy in his face. That's still a touchdown.
This network here had a great replay on this particular touchdown, guys. I don't know if you have it. It's the all-22 look by any chance, where they show the defensive back sort of try to pass that off.
Oh, yeah.
And to Duggar. And
Duggar's supposed to be over the top Help there, and he's missing.
He's not at all.
And this is what I'm saying.
Really
it's Duggar. It's Jonathan
broadcast.
Jones. It's Christian Gonzalez. It's not just like Isaiah Bolden and Alex Austin.
Right.
Then I would say,
really
these guys are pressed into duty. They're trying to learn their way. This was widespread. Everybody was involved today. The safety struggled. The corners struggled. The pass rush struggled. But the pass rush isn't there. They don't have anybody that can rush the passer.
Even when they tried to scheme things up, though, Paul, they couldn't get close.
Yeah, I mean, but
until the game was out of hand,
they don't get any pressure.
No.
That's not. They didn't get any pressure last week. They didn't get any pressure this week. They haven't gotten any pressure since week 1.
Nope.
They don't really have the pass rushers to impact the game.
Yeah.
And I think the one game that they got pressure was against Caleb Williams.
And here we all said in the pregame show, oh, here comes Harbaugh, big tough guy, Big Ten, coach who's going to want to run the ball and the elements and everything like that. He laughed at him. I don't need to run it today. I'm going to throw it down your throat. What was it, 38?
Herbert threw 38 passes, I believe, and he was out of the game
because it was taking candy from a baby when you threw.
They could have.
They ran for 147 yards too.
So they ran it too, but they kept running on early downs, and like Evan and I were looking, it was like, I feel like they could run like an 11-yard crosser on every play if they wanted to, but they kept sort of setting up, 2nd and 8, 3rd and 5, and then they would get it. I mean, at one point I think we calculated they were 10 for 15 on 3rd down, and 2 of those fails on 3rd down resulted in 4th down conversion. So it was like 12 for 15 on 3rd down. They just had no answers defensively.
Nope.
All right, as we're picking through the rubble here, and it is rubble, is there anything other that we want to talk about on the bad list as far as individuals? I mean, I think defensively they were bad. Offensively, they were bad.
I thought like short yardage run defense was particularly bad.
Sure.
Like I didn't think Dobbins had a huge game. I think his average per carry was pretty modest, but anytime it was short yardage, they weren't just getting it; they were getting like 5 yards.
Yep.
And there was one that he sort of bounced outside, and it was like there's nobody there. Yeah. 3rd and 2, they're like caving down the whole side of the line for an easy 10 yards. Just really bad. I mean, 23 minutes, 20 seconds time of possession in the first half.
They ran
23-20 to 6:40.
They ran 15 plays offensively in the first half, which was a league low in the last 5 years.
That's a great stat.
Yeah.
That's a great stat, Matt. I mean, that's like just to illustrate total dominance. 249 to 91.
Right.
18 first downs to 5.
Yeah.
And out of those 5 first downs, 2 of them were on penalties.
Here's one. Who leads the league in horse collars?
I don't know.
Just so
It's
you
at
know
least
that
3 that they've called on the Patriots.
wanna-
Like that's a tough call. That's a
I-
tough call to make. It
Oh,
doesn't
I
happen.
thought you were
all the
talking
time.
about Keon White, because Keon White, I think, is the guy who leads the league in
got to
horse
lead the
collars.
league.
But I will say this, and I want to be fair.
Dietrich Wise had one as well.
John Hussey's the worst referee in football, and I know I attack the referees every week. He has no control of the game. He's constantly adding more time on the clock. He's constantly stopping the game, and the horse collar was horse crap. It was not a horse collar tackle. He calls it from 25 yards behind the play. I can't stand John Hussey. When I saw him today, I said to myself, add 15 minutes onto the game because he'll lose control of it at some point. And sure enough, he's calling horse collar tackles in 30-point games from 8 miles away. He grabbed him by the back, but he didn't pull him down.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to be fair about it. Like, we're beating the crap out of the team and we're calling them undisciplined and stuff. That wasn't a horse collar tackle.
Yeah.
John Hussey. Fred's guy. Now, Fred's taking his victory lap for Lad McConkey today.
Oh, jeez. He was just out there talking him, hyping him up a little. Lad gave him a game ball. He's like, thanks for believing in me, Fred.
Did Fred take it away from his aunt?
Was that his aunt?
That's what they said. On
Did
TV.
they say that?
Yeah.
Oh, I figured it had to be someone. The Chargers
by the
don't
way,
have fans.
another-
There's a lot of people here rooting for the Chargers.
Good hustle by the CBS crew who's doing the game for NFL Network. Good hustle by the camera person. They gave the person credit for going to find that out. All right, Fred strapped it on and he's in.
Whoa.
You want to? Do you want to challenge any of the dreary analysis that we have so far?
Well, I haven't heard anything.
It hasn't been good.
No. I can't imagine it would be.
We didn't really have anything for the good list other than, like,
Paul
The
believes
one-
that that's a first.
the
to
one,
start
I don't think I've ever
couple
had
tackles.
nothing that I said was good today.
Yeah. I mean, the pop catch was good, but,
Yeah.
you know.
Good adjustment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was it. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking about individual plays.
Yeah. Early, Jennings was on a good trend.
Yeah.
We all had the same vision of the game.
But
Set an
that,
edge.
but
Set
that
an edge.
everything collapsed.
He made a play.
Yeah, everything collapsed.
Do you remember the Isaiah Bolden one?
Yeah, evidently he missed that one.
All right, so Fred, my job's not to rank them. Where would you rate today? And recency bias certainly doesn't help, but this has got to be the worst. Mike said low point of the year, rock bottom. The candidates are at the Jets, at San Francisco,
Yeah.
against Jacksonville and London, at Arizona, and today.
I think a lot of those, to me, were just as bad, if not worse. This one, I mean, let's face it, I've clocked out. You know, we were talking on Patriots Unfiltered over the week. At this point, like, do you really even want to win?
Oh.
Yeah, no, we talked about it.
How about do you want to
It's
compete?
jarring coming
Yeah.
Do
from
you want to compete?
No, that was disappointing. The competition was just dreadful. You know, defense all year. Like, I got a lot of posts about, you know, how come they could do well against Allen and they couldn't do anything against Herbert. I don't know the answer to that, except that maybe Gonzo went out early, because early you saw Herbert having a lot of time,
It wasn't until the second quarter.
yeah, but having to throw it away a lot. You know,
What?
early, yes, he did. Yeah, he did.
Fred, he didn't. He never had to throw the. He threw the ball away like 3 times in the game.
Right, early.
No, no. I did not believe that we could possibly have a disagreement in this game, but he had 2 incomplete passes in like the first half.
Early
and
on-
they both went through his receiver's hands.
McConkey
Early
and,
on, the coverage
Was not good. The coverage was not good. A
He
single
had-
play in this game.
Okay.
It wasn't.
All
It
right.
was terrible. And by the way, Gonzalez was part of that.
Early
The
on.
4th down crossing route to Johnston is wide open.
Okay, so I'm sure
Like-
there were those, but the early on there were plays where he had tons of time and nobody
And he
was
threw
open.
the ball to a guy who was open.
You know?
When did he throw it away early in the game?
So what
he
you
threw
did-
a couple away at the end of the first half.
He threw
when
2
they had
out of the
field goal.
two
Right.
out of the end of the end zone
from the
He threw
20
one-
yard from the 20-yard
he
line
threw-
with 11 seconds
He threw
left.
one in over the sideline that no one was open.
Right, again, because of the clock. He couldn't throw the ball in the middle of the field because the clock would have
No,
expired.
this is way before the end of the half.
Mike, please jump in.
Well, I'm going to jump in to just tell Fred this.
Please jump in,
One of the
Mike. I
things-
see your face.
One of the things that Paul said that I think makes some sense if you look at it contextually. Last week against Buffalo, with the Bills coming off a couple of high-powered, high offensive wins, natural letdown, and maybe they weren't going on all
Yeah,
cylinders.
that could be possible. Yeah, sure.
And that's why the defense looked better.
I don't think there was
Today-
that much of a difference. I really don't. The
No.
other team just played well today.
Today,
Chargers were good.
with the Chargers needing the win and playing well, the defense got boat raced, as Paul
Yeah,
likes to
That
say.
was a boat race today. They got boat raced.
No doubt, but I'm just saying that things just got progressively worse as the game went on.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
But they scored on every drive. this is what I don't get.
except for the first one.
Right, because they dropped 2 passes on the first drive.
Okay, all right.
Right,
Yes,
Mike?
I'm with Paul on this one, Fred.
Quentin
Sorry.
Johnston dropped an easy out right through his hands, and then
McConkey.
McConkey had a little slot fade
Right.
that he went right through his hands.
Well, he had to adjust on it, but anyway,
Okay,
But-
drop passes, 2.
yeah.
They then scored, Mike, on how many drives in a row?
7.
7 possessions in a row. They scored after that.
And some of those drives were 11 play 91 yards, 12 plays 67 yards,
Oh,
10
relentless.
plays 94 yards. It was just
These are 7 of the first 8 drives of the
The
game.
original question was, why did they do better against Josh Allen than this week?
Right.
And, that's the only thing I could come up with is that, Gonzo was out early. And
I think
and
it would
he's
have
their
been
best
better,
coverage guy.
without question.
Yeah.
It would have been better if
That-
Gonzo plays 4 quarters. That I wouldn't argue with. But I don't think that they had any periods in this game where they struggled offensively.
No.
And
None.
Fred,
John
I hear
Jones.
you on the, I've clocked out. I know you don't mean that literally, but I understand what
No,
you're
I-
saying.
no, I kind of think he does.
No, because it's hard to at this point
Get excited.
to be like crazily disappointed.
Right, but
they're 3-13.
But
going
I'm
into
looking
the
at a
thing.
stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 emails, which we'll get to. The compete level today, and I think that's where fans are going to have a real problem with today, is that they were outclassed right out of the chute.
Well, they're lining up because they want to. There's intention behind this.
Okay.
Pointing out to compete.
Yep.
Because they want to make the point that the team is clocked out, and that's an indictment on the coaching
staff.
Now here, I'm going to go with Fred on this.
And they want the coaches gone.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, again, I'll repeat what I said and Matt just paraphrased. I know it sounds really harsh. I don't think there's a huge difference between how they played last week and this. Like, the results are obviously different.
Yeah.
I think it's all about the other team.
It could be.
I
Yeah.
think when the other team plays well, they're powerless to stop
But
it.
here's the thing: like I am under no illusion that this is a good team,
No, me-
or even
no,
a middling
no.
team.
Me too.
They're a bad team,
Right.
And you're going to get blown out in a season when you're a bad team, especially at the end of the season when the other team has something to play for
Right.
and is a good team, and you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to get blown out. That's what happens in the NFL. We're now we've been, not just recently, we are a bad team.
And
So
one of the-
that's why I'm saying I'm not
I'm with you.
overly disappointed.
I'm with you, Fred. I was a little surprised because I didn't think the Chargers were quote unquote that good.
Okay.
So I'll say that. The Chargers impressed me today. I thought the Chargers looked really good today.
Yes.
Now I will say,
Herbert played well today.
yeah, I thought he was really sharp, and I would say that one of the differences today that was a change is a couple of oh by the way scores at the end for the other team, and you didn't get the oh by the way scores that you have been getting. Like the Arizona game was really close to this, except for the Patriots scored 2
Couple of
touchdowns in
Revlon
the fourth
scores
quarter.
at the end.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they had 3 points with 10 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
Right. Here's one that we're talking in generalities as well. We should, because I think if the blanket can be widespread on both units, offense and defense. What do we think about the quarterback today?
Well, I was going to put him on the bad list, and that's more
Deservedly so.
because, and for me, it's getting yourself hurt on the third play of the game. This is something you need to learn from, and I mean, not even really talking about his play. It's just he has to be smarter than this. It already happened to him once. He wasn't going to pick up the first down. I mean, he'd already stepped out of bounds when he took that hit. So, for me, that's the biggest thing. I talked about want to see Drake May improve, Drake May making strides. Well, this was an error repeater to me, and we're lucky that he was able to come back in the game because I think we all thought, oh, great, there goes Drake. We're going to, have to watch Jacoby Brissett play again for another game. Look, his play wasn't great in this game either, but I just put it almost entirely here on this first play where he's got to be smarter. He's got to take care of himself. He's got to know when to give himself up and when to try to get this play.
He actually tries to spin back
I
in
know,
bounds.
I mean, and I respect that he's a compete kid, but learn to pick your battles.
Here's the
and don't
thing. I
get
think
yourself
May
hurt.
did have a bad game, but a lot of it was because of Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is a really good coach.
Yep.
He's playing against a rookie quarterback, and he knows that that rookie quarterback has a bad line, and he knows how to make you look bad.
Yeah.
He's a good coach, and I think that's part of it.
So I think that's a really good point, Freddie, because like contrast what Buffalo did last week. I thought Buffalo just went hell bent for leather after him right from the first snap. Harbaugh didn't do that today.
No.
Harbaugh picked his spots.
Yeah.
He confused him.
And he heated him up when he needed to, and he made him look really bad.
Yeah.
4th and 2.
Evan was talking some of
A
those
big
key
one.
plays. Evan was talking about there were receivers there, and that's why I would agree with Fred and Mike. I would have May on the bad list too. I thought there were plays to be made, and he got affected by the rush on those big plays. A little hot route to the receiver on a 4th and 2 that he ran. He got there was the big sack that went like 15 yards backward.
Yeah.
KD
So
was
I
open.
think that's a really good point about Harbaugh. Like, I don't know if it's Jesse Minter or whoever gets the credit for it, but their game plan was much more effective than Buffalo's last week.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of like affecting May with the pressure as opposed to just putting – because Buffalo had constant pressure on May last week.
Yeah.
But this week I thought it led to bad plays by May.
And
And
then you get behind early, and you're passing all the time, and you know.
Right.
But having said that, the 4th and 2 play, inexcusable to take a 20-yard loss on that.
I mean, I don't care about the you can't get sacked.
No.
You got to throw the ball to somebody on 4th
Throw it
down.
away. Throw it away.
Throw it
And,
long and make it a punt.
and the razzle-dazzle.
Yeah, hope they pick it off.
Right.
I don't know what anybody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I had that
We'll
on the
hear some
list, too.
excuses,
Like
I
the-
guess, coming out of the locker room on
Yeah.
what happened on that play. But that's you can't make that play in week. What is this? Week 17.
Yeah, and I think the play was supposed to go to Demario Douglas, but I don't know this for sure. But it also looked like May was trying not to pitch the ball at the last second. Like he didn't like it. Like the timing or the spacing was off. I think they were trying to get the defense to flow with Stevenson on a traditional pitch out, but they were going to come back the other way on almost like a trap to Demario Douglas, and the timing was off. But the fumble, just you can't do that. You can't fumble there.
You know, and I watched that play over, and to me it looked like Hunter Henry flashed in front of him, and that screwed him up. Like he saw the player, and it's like, and it screwed up all the
That could
timing
be.
of the play.
That could be too.
You know,
Right. We saw a early snap by Cole Strange in his first game. He snapped the ball early. The tackles weren't ready.
That looked weird.
And that just, again, it just looks bad.
Yeah.
It looks really bad. Paul, you mentioned his name. Fred, I'm going to ask you
I'm
first.
surprised Strange played the whole game. By
Yep.
the way,
Pre-game reports were that
It's
Gerard
'cause they
Mayo
didn't play any snaps.
Gerard Mayo did a pregame interview with Scott Zolak like he does every week on the radio for 98.5, and he said that Gibby's going to start today. And Ramondre Stevenson.
the what's going to start?
Gibby.
What's the Gibby? Oh,
Gibson.
Gibson. Okay,
Gibby's going to start
and
today.
he didn't.
And he didn't.
Yeah,
Much ado about nothing, or
I know. I mean, if your head coach before the game, minutes before the game, says one player is going to start and he doesn't start, what the hell's going on with that?
Yep.
So can I just ask
Who
you?
didn't get the memo?
Can I ask you the timing of the interview as someone who's
yeah,
knowledgeable about
Zolak usually, I could say this because Zolak comes by my office. He usually drops his
today?
bag in.
It's today though.
Says hi, and he's waiting for
I'm with-
Stacy at
I'm
some
with
point in
Fred.
time.
Yeah.
That interview is done sometime between 10:30 and 11:30.
So it's not like
my
the
guess.
interview took place like Friday
No.
afternoon.
So like
No,
90
no.
minutes before the game, you're
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So there's nothing that happened to Gibson
No.
in the meantime.
Yeah. I mean, Gibson was in.
No,
later.
I know.
Yeah.
But maybe he was late
Right.
getting here
Could
or
be
something.
Right. Yeah. Could be something, but it was weird. It was weird.
That's odd.
Yeah.
It's very odd to me. I agree with Fred.
Me too. Can I call out one other play, Matt?
Mike, you can do whatever you'd like.
I hesitate to put Hunter Henry on the down list, but just to come out in halftime in the very first play of the third quarter to draw a holding penalty, it just carried over all the negativity from the first half. And I don't want to kill Hunter Henry because he's
probably been their best player on
He's been their
offense.
best
Most
player.
consistent offensive player.
But it's just they have a knack for just horribly timed penalties when the team is kind of hanging on the ropes and they need to stack a few plays together to get going.
Well, listen,
and then somebody
If
takes
they
a
had
holding
any sniff
penalty.
of getting back in, they needed a touchdown.
When you're a
on that play.
bad team and every possession is precious,
Yeah.
there's no good time for a penalty.
Yeah, that's true.
There isn't.
They all seem bad
Right.
because every drive is precious to this team. They can't afford any
I
drive.
didn't get a good look at that. Was that another Hussey special?
I didn't get a good look at it either.
Oh,
And that's
he's
why.
awful.
That's why I don't want to kill Hunter Henry for it.
I didn't get a good look at
didn't
the
get
replay on
But
that.
Mike, I wrote down this. So kudos to you for picking out on the player and starting it right out of the chute. 3 and out.
Yep.
That to me, and certainly the penalty doesn't help. But you've got a little bit, maybe a sniff of momentum, by scoring, and you get the ball back. You've held them to a field goal to go into the locker room, and you go 3 and out. It's just, that's what bad teams do, and they're a bad team.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad as when you have your opening script and you spend all week on whatever the opening set of plays is that you really feel good about, that you think you can get their defense on, and so it's always really disappointing.
By the way,
first drive
you
does
have
nothing
have
but-
open half scripts too.
Yeah,
right?
well, and that's
Trust me.
that was my next point. Right. That was a play that they're talking about. Like, hey, this is gonna be a drive starter for us. Let's get what was it, Ramondre in space. And he got holding penalty, and so it's just back to zero.
No, but I go back to where I started. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm not losing sleep over this. I'm,
No,
they
I
got,
agree, Fred.
They got pasted by a better team. We stink, and we need to make a lot of changes in the offseason.
Yeah, I just think it's the realization of. We spent all offseason basically boiling it down to argue can they be average? Can they get to average? Could they get to 6-7 wins? And it's games like this that just reinforce
this year.
Yeah, well, you're not bad, but you're one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst team in the league. That's what I think. For me, it's the 6 wins. I think they get 6 wins. 7 maybe. But a little spunk down.
But Mike, you can't be
4-13 still in play.
You can't be bemoaning how bad this roster is all year, and then say, well, can they get to middling?
I don't think Mike was looking for middling.
He said 6-7 wins.
Well,
that's
I'm saying,
not middling.
but I'm saying
Well, that's bad.
all summer long when we're in just at least fooling yourself into believing if it all went right, what could you kind of put together?
Yeah,
and you're totally
said
right
6
once
wins.
you get go right, and so that's what I'm talking about. It's the realization that you're not even close to 6 wins, you're closer to 1 win.
So I would say in this again, people are gonna. Think I'm beating up on the Chargers, but I think that's what was alarming to me because I don't really envision if this was Buffalo last week and they did this, I wouldn't.
You would have
even bat
expected
an
it.
eye.
You would have expected it on the road, tough. Place
I don't.
To play.
I don't look at the Chargers the same way as
they're
the
gonna be
other
1 and
playoff
out
teams.
in the playoffs.
I don't think they're all that good.
They are.
Now I think they're well coached, and I think their quarterback is really good.
Yep.
And they're getting there. They're getting better. They got a rookie receiver that's really giving them a lot of life. But to be that far behind what I would envision to be sort of a playoff team, but no real contender. Mm-hmm. Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo, you lose like that too. That shows you how far you have to go to be a contender. This is showing me how far they have to go just to be relevant.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think what's disturbing about the whole thing, and I go back to what I think most reasonable Patriot fans thought of at the beginning of the year. The roster's tough. They've got a new administration in place. Can they get to a point at the end of the year where they're trending upward and you see signs of improvement? Not only do you see no signs of improvement, and I think that's an indictment on everybody. Yes, the roster's poor, but nobody looks like they're improving, and they're going to limp to the finish line at best. Who knows what the game – it could be a glorified preseason game next week if Buffalo's got nothing to play for. Yeah. Going to be very hard to evaluate that if that happens.
But here's the thing about what you're saying. We need to believe our eyes. If what you were saying happened, they started getting better and they started improving, well, then you'd be saying, this roster is not that bad after all.
Maybe the coaching staff got something out of them.
They just needed to be coached up, and there's some talent here.
See, I would look
there
at
isn't.
It. I would look at it as the way that Matt said it. These coaches are doing a great job because I know how limited the talent is.
Yeah.
I saw it last year.
Yeah.
So now I would be saying these guys are doing a great job. They're maximizing what they have.
Right.
Which I think is what Harbaugh is doing right now in LA.
Yep. Yep.
Not to try to make this all about Jim Harbaugh. Why didn't we hire him?
No, but listen,
I think
played
he's
a good
coach.
A seasoned,
your point
coach.
about their plan going in, I think.
It
was alarming.
We talked about Belichick in the past. Well, Belichick against a rookie quarterback, right?
Yep.
It's the same thing.
Yep. All right, to close this one out from an injury standpoint, May got hurt. That was a big one. He came back in. Still not a great sign to see him go out and have something happen above the shoulders. That's not great. Gonzalez goes out. Same sort of a thing. He'll be watched, and who knows? I would say you'd probably want to be as careful with him as possible and maybe shut him down for next week. Is that fair to say?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
I would do the same thing with May. Is if he's out of protocol, if he clears protocol, he plays. If he doesn't, obviously he doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. Did I miss anybody else? Keon White got
White
dinged, but
briefly.
he came back in.
He did come back in. Did Aquale come back
I
in?
didn't notice if Aquale came back in.
Aquale definitely appeared to hurt his shoulder.
That's
or his
why
arm.
they didn't do as well. I'm only kidding.
And I don't remember if he came back in at that point. It was kind of garbage time anyway.
Another one, and I know you guys don't get a chance to listen to the TV, but I'm bullish on Tucker and Chris Rose. And when Aquale went out, Tucker said, he goes, look, I watched the tape. He goes, I'll tell you what, Aquale is their best interior defensive lineman.
I heard him say that.
He's played as well as anybody on the defensive line. They haven't played great this year, but Aquale's been the one guy, at least when I watch him, he looks like the most consistent player on the defensive line. That perked my ears up.
No, I like Tucker. I think he did a good job today, and he did a good job 2 weeks ago in Arizona when he did the game.
Yeah,
he tells the truth.
He's honest.
He tells the truth. He's
honest.
not afraid.
He's not afraid.
He's not afraid.
Yeah.
Yep.
There it is. The good, the bad, which there was a lot of, and the injured. When we return, we will get to your phone calls. We will get to your emails. This is the Patriots Postgame Show presented by DraftKings. We'll be back right after this.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Nice! Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Nice! Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco. Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco. Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco. Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad. Hey, watch it. It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it. So the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it. So the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
Join the conversation by calling into the TPX hotline at 855-PATS-500 or email the show at podcast@patriots.com. Now, live from our studios, here is Matt Smith.
And welcome back to Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, where the Patriots, in the penultimate game of the year, lose badly to the Los Angeles Chargers 40-7, 3 and, let me see if I can do the math. 3-13 on the year, correct?
You got
that right. 3-13 on
that
the
used
year.
to be a full season.
The Chargers are in the playoffs. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. My guess is those were consumed in abundance today after watching today's game. Let's hit the electronic mail and go to Matt in OC. Where's OC? I still think
Orange County.
Okay, I still think Mayo deserves another year, but watching McConkey toast us while Polk played one snap and wasn't a factor was hard to stomach. How do we get Fred in the draft room this year to tell Elliott which wide receivers can actually play football? Matt from Orange County with that one.
Matt, we're already on that last part. Evan threw the gauntlet down to Freddie during the game.
Yep.
It's up to Freddie to find us a
I
wide
haven't begun
receiver.
my research yet.
Oh man,
but
it's like I can just picture the shot. It's like a slow motion pan of like Elliott Wolf, and everybody's like looking to their right, and then you just see Fred sitting there with like a mustard stain, being like, "Him, that one."
How about just a silent nod of approval?
And then he takes a bite of meatball.
I've got like half a donut in my mouth.
Find the strangest name that you can on the board and pick him in the third round.
Being mad at Elliott Wolf, says Alex, who wants to come to Mayo and the coaching staff's defense just a little bit. I certainly agree there have been several coaching mistakes and miscues this season, but with the roster that's out there every week, what are people expecting to happen, Fred? This is what happens when you ignore a glaring need to left tackle. This is what happens when you try to be smart and draft Jalen Polk instead of Ladd McConkey, who tore the defense apart today. This is what happens when you have no edge rushers and no off-the-ball linebackers. If fans want somebody to be mad at Elliott Wolf. That is from Alex, who emails.
Yep.
And let's go.
I don't know why it only has to be one person if you're a fan. Why do I have to pick one guy?
Well,
I mean, I'm not happy with anything I'm seeing.
Supposedly, he said in the offseason that he gets the final say on everything.
Oh, no. I'm saying if I'm a fan, why do I have to pick one guy to be mad at?
Oh.
Elliott Wolf, I think, is certainly in play for the criticism, just like Gerard Mayo is getting.
Right.
I'm not saying that, but, like, who's doing well?
Yeah.
Who are you happy with?
Right. And that's why you can just go round and around where you can say it's the guy picking the wrong players, it's the guy not developing the players, the guy not getting extra out of guys.
That's where, again, not having the information really puts us at a disadvantage. It could be everybody.
Right.
Or it could be a couple things that are just killing it.
No,
we
but
have
I'll
no
say
idea.
This, with what they have, it was very easy for me to say. Are they getting the most out of it? Are they doing things like
almost impossible?
One of the things that's really annoying me is this sort of trend that they have, Mike. The narratives that develop during the course of the week that you and I love so much. They seem to be affecting the decisions that get made the following week.
Yep.
Why don't you run Drake May? boom, all of a sudden we get some zone runs for Drake May in the next game. Fourth and 6 or whatever, 4th and 5 from the down 10 in the fourth quarter. You got to go for that. What do we do today? We go for a 4th and 12 from our own, 45-yard line or whatever it was. It's like what they talk about and criticize during the week gets addressed in the play. Have your thoughts, your convictions, and stick with them.
Yeah. One thing I want to piggyback on with you, Paul, is that, this offseason, whoever does go, I assume somebody's going to go. People are going to go. We're going to just point at that person and say, oh,
it was his fault.
It was that guy's fault.
That's the problem.
Right. So this guy's staying, so he must have been okay behind the scenes. But it's just, we don't know. It's hard.
Well, and I think there's a fear there that who's going to get scapegoated.
Yeah.
Right. And at 3-14, changes are coming.
And we don't know. Is it scapegoating or is it
legitimate?
Or is it legit? We don't know.
Well, there's no way at 3-14 you can just run it back and just say, everybody did a good job, so we all deserve a second chance.
Yep. One more on this cluster to just round out. This is from Craig in Central Mass. Is this a calamity yet, based on Rappaport's pregame? Hopefully Ian's source can clarify. Thanks, Craig in Central Mass.
It's a great question that we were asking ourselves.
Well, Rappaport had the report today that he's had the last 3 weeks.
That's what Paul's been
which
saying.
is, he's coming back unless something bad happens.
Unless he doesn't come back.
Right. So what is the definition of calamity in this context? I have no idea.
So
was today calamitous?
My guess is,
in my opinion, no.
See, that's where it's interesting. You don't think today was calamitous?
No, I think this is a continuation of everything.
I agree with Fred.
That's a little seasoned, Fred.
Kind of calamitous.
Calamitous would have been fist fights on the sideline, and somebody gets hit in the head with a Gatorade bucket. That's calamitous.
Okay.
And I do not know, obviously, like you keep saying, this is where it's hard when you don't have the information. My guess is that's what they are defining calamitous as.
Right.
Like just open
Yeah.
disrespect, insubordination in the locker room.
Right.
And that kind of stuff, fist fights or whatever, guys just deciding they're not playing, Antonio Brown.
Taking the shirt.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I think that they're calling calamitous. Because this performance, as Matt, I think, astutely pointed out at the beginning of the show, is not an outlier. It's about the 5th or 6th time that they've lost like that this year. So if they went into this game saying, unless something calamitous happens, I don't think they're talking about the performance.
No. Right.
I think they're talking about something far greater than that. Whoever the they is, that Ian Rappaport is getting his information from.
Is it possible, one of my newfound, and it's not new, favorite phrases, that both can be right? Is it possible that a calamity is defined by fistfights on the sidelines, Gatorade bottles being thrown, punches in the locker room, and, might I say, a piss-poor performance on the field? Can both things be calamitous?
Well, but no.
Okay.
No, not this year.
Okay.
Poor performance in the field is what's happened all year.
Okay.
Levels of calamity.
That's kind of my point.
Yeah.
Today wasn't an outlier,
right.
in terms of on-field performance.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yet wasn't, and you guys have a good finger on the pulse on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Was there an expectation? Nobody believes that the Chargers are world beaters. They're coming across the coast. Maybe the weather's going to be a little bit different. Indoor team playing outdoors. That they can build a little something off the Buffalo game and maybe stay within 2 scores.
Was there any more of an expectation of that today than there was coming out of the bye and playing Arizona?
Well, I mean, again, and then,
right?
So,
Arizona's half the team that the Chargers
Let's put it this way.
are.
Let's put it this way, and there's record of this. We do our picks.
Yep.
Either I'm picking them to win or cover. I didn't this week.
And I didn't, and no one did.
Yeah.
You didn't.
I did.
And you've generally picked the Patriots to cover at least.
Yeah.
Right. 855-PATS-500, the number. Deshaun has been with us the longest. Let's go to Deshaun first. You are first in the Patriots postgame show. Can I get this to work? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Deshaun, you're first in the Patriots postgame show, brought to you by DraftKings. Hi, Deshaun.
Good evening, guys.
How you doing, Deshaun?
Hey.
Hello?
Hi.
Yep.
Yes. I don't understand why people just can't really see what it is. I mean, when Fred asked that question about the reason why the Patriots can't, why they had to perform Josh Allen versus Justin Herbert this game, what people don't understand is that the roster is extremely bad, so it's hard for them to have good sustainable performances.
Yep.
So, like, when you look at it, week in and week out, it's either that they get the brakes beat off of them or they can have a good game and still lose.
Yeah.
So you look at it, it's like I'm thinking to myself, like, man, they really need to seek some like outside scouting or consultants, for this great talent, because right now I don't think these guys know what they're doing, and it's going to get worse if Mr. Crabbe don't make a decision quickly to perhaps probably get rid of Gerard Mayo, because I don't think these guys are right for the job. I think they're going to mess up everything down the long run when it comes to trying to build this team back up. That's just my take on it.
Thank you, Deshaun.
I mean, the point he makes is a good one. When you're a bad team, it's hard to string good performances together. For this team, it's hard to string good drives together, whether on defense or offense.
Like, because the Buffalo game last week, I think everybody just sort of focused on.
You had a good first half, and then you fell apart.
You had a good first 2 drives.
Yeah. Well, okay.
That was it.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything offensively until there was a minute 13 left in the game after that.
But they went into the locker room with a lead. What's the last time they did that?
They went into the locker room with the lead, but they had lost control of the game already.
Yeah.
Here's one. We've been talking about this a little bit off and on for the last couple weeks. What would you say the Carolina Panthers are? Is that a bad team?
Yep.
Okay. Have they been playing plucky a little bit? Bad
for the most part. Yeah.
Bad team.
I think
for the most part they've been competitive for the most part.
I think that's a really good point, Matt. If that was what was going on here, we
you'd
would be
feel
talking a little
about it.
differently.
You'd feel better.
We'd be talking differently
roster
right now.
Isn't great, is it? Carolina's roster?
It's not.
See,
I'm sure it's better than the Patriots.
The competitive game for the Patriots last week against Buffalo, to me, is the outlier.
Yeah. No, that's
the game that they got blasted. The Panthers got blasted recently against Dallas was the outlier.
Right.
All their other games,
they've been in them.
Over the last 6-7 games, have been very close. If they haven't won, right. I think they're like 3-4 in their last 7.
And they took Kansas City to the wire.
And Kansas City, Tampa in overtime, like they've had some really close games.
There's demonstrable reason for hope in Carolina.
Yeah.
They benched the quarterback. He came back. He's starting to play better. They're competitive in games.
They have a rookie coach who seems like he's getting better.
So it's different there.
Yeah.
Where's their hope here, Fred?
There isn't right now.
Okay.
Except for Drake May and Gonzalez.
Okay. Yep. And I think May took a big step back this week.
Yeah, he did. He got bested by a better coach.
Yep.
But again, I think it was a continuation of the last 3 quarters last week that people didn't really remember because he was so good in the first 2 drives.
Yep. Mike wants to know, and this is a fun game. I enjoy the game, so we'll play it here. The roster is really bad. As you look next season, who are the 4 offensive players and who are the 4 defensive players you would pick to keep and build around? The boss man can go first.
Well,
4 offensive.
4 offensive. I guess I'm obviously May.
Yep.
I'm sticking with Onwenu.
Yep.
Because who knows? I'd stay with Hooper. I'd keep Henry.
There's your 4.
And there's probably 1 or 2 more I would keep. Defense, obviously, you're hoping Barmore comes back healthy. Gonzalez, you're keeping. There's a lot of guys I keep, but not to be starters. Like, I'll keep Tavai, but he's not on the field to start the game anymore.
Right. He's a role player. They've got a team of role players who are playing out of position.
Yeah. I mean, they need to all be upgraded. I'm trying to think anyone else on defense. I mean, all the safeties right now can go. I'm serious.
No, you're kind of answering the question with your hesitation. I mean, I don't know why we have to pick 4. But the fact of the matter is they do not have enough players on both sides of the ball. I think that the exercise is that. I think he's trying to show, like, you'd have a hard time picking 4.
We did it on All Access 2 weeks ago where we said if there's an expansion team coming in and you had an expansion draft, you can protect 5 players. We struggled to get to 5 on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Marcus Jones made it, but, I mean...
I picked Marcus Jones only because he's a great punt returner.
Right.
And I just think he's one of the 5 best players on the team.
Right.
No.
But it's tough to build around a guy who's 5'6",
I just
150 pounds.
People throw these exercises at you to be like, see how much they stink, and it's like, I get it, but at the same time, you add some talented pieces like guys like Tavai, guys like Godshaw, guys like Keon White, who may not be keepers, play better, play well enough, but they don't have the high-end talent to pull some of those guys
to your point,
up,
Mike, right? So let's do it with the Chargers, who just put 40 on the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Herbert, Fred's guy, Ladd McConkey, probably Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater.
Yeah.
That's probably your 4.
Zion Johnson,
who's kind of been a disappointment.
No.
So, to Fred's point,
Dobbins
isn't any better than Ramondre Stevenson.
Okay.
He's not.
All right.
They're just kind of running backs. I think a lot of people would tell you Stevenson's better.
Gerard Mayo would.
I don't really like. I don't think that every team has to have 11 guys that are like the answer on offense.
Right.
Like if you have the quarterback and you have a couple of weapons, they need some weapons. Patriots don't have any.
Call me as impressed with Herbert after watching him for a good portion today. I didn't know that he had that in him. And again, the opponent is.
Do you know he's thrown for like the most yards in the
No, I
first
know.
5
You know
years of
that.
his career in NFL
seen
history, right?
I haven't seen him play.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him play. I saw him play today. He looked good in a lot of different places. Drop back, run, the off-platform throws. He looked
He's
good.
a good quarterback.
He's a good quarterback.
When you see a kid
he's
who's-
been a good quarterback.
I know.
Yeah,
He's
no.
only got 3 interceptions this year, and it just shows when you
Fred-
don't get any pressure on him, he's going to pick you apart.
Fred,
Yeah.
this is why you and I have a feel for the league.
Right.
we watch the league.
Right.
You get it?
Finlay in Dundee, Scotland writes, I was firmly in the keep Mayo camp, but losing like this to a mediocre Chargers team is inexcusable, especially at home. It's hard to say what's developed this season. Yes, you found a franchise quarterback, and Gonzalez looks to be a top player, but outside of that, this roster is literally nothing. Several players were paid, and they've all regressed or stagnated. All I can say is thank God there's only one more game left this season. Good luck to the Crafts, who have a significant amount of work sorting this mess out after the Bills game. Fairly fair emailer there, I would have to say.
I mean, and this is, I've had this conversation with several people this week, and this is the tough part for me and for us when we're talking and evaluating the team. Tom Curran recently said this team needs a football czar, someone that oversees everything football. Now, you may disagree or agree with that, but at the end of the day, somebody at the end of this season has to be making hard decisions. Should Gerard Mayo stay or go? Should Elliott Wolf stay or go? Name 2 people. Who's making that decision right now? Right now, it's got to be the Crafts, right? So if it is the Crafts, then that means in order for them to make that decision, they would have to be involved in seeing these meetings and hearing what's going on and being at practice. They're not.
Right.
So how are they making that decision? By just watching what we watch? I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming they go down during the week and they ask questions and everything like that, but DeMarcus Covington isn't going to tell them, yeah, I need to go. Yeah. So, it's going to be tough on the Crafts to make these decisions if they are the ones making the decision. Otherwise, Elliott Wolf says he's got final say. Well, who's got the final say over Elliott Wolf?
Right.
Well,
It's a tough predicament, and I understand where Curran's coming from when he says that. People I talked to said, no, that's stupid. You're just adding another layer. But there has to be someone who has really final say over the whole operation.
But do you think if they just hired a GM and gave the person the GM title, that could be your football czar? It's just you're coming up with all these different names for people to try to keep
Team
people
president
in
a little
jobs
bit more accurate for you?
But does that person exist in the building right now?
Well, maybe not, but maybe that's what part of the problem is that
Yeah.
you're trying to skirt around naming an actual GM or giving another head coach full power, and it's just at a certain point you got all these people with all the different power, and you're getting all different relationships and structures, and now it just gets more complicated.
I can't stress enough how critical a juncture we are with this franchise. We've got a quarterback who we think is the future, and nothing else.
Yeah. No, I know, and that's I don't think they can operate from that point of we've got a huge box check. Yes, Drake May's good, but we said it in the pregame show. Herbert's good, and they're still trying to figure out, and they're trying to get out.
Herbert's really good.
They're trying to get out of the hump of being that second tier AFC
I feel
kind
like
of
Matt
team.
had an epiphany
I
today.
did have an epiphany. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Put some respect on his name, Deuce.
I apologize. I have not watched Herbert's.
If we screw up this offseason,
oh yeah,
we're in big trouble.
So I kind of agree with Mike. I think Elliott Wolf is your football czar. They put it in the press release that he has final say. So
final say of what? The roster.
Right.
Right. But what about the coaches?
The coaching staff. Whose final say is
Who
that?
is
Is that Elliott Wolf?
Who is saying AVP? You did a good job. You're staying.
So do you think other teams? Is that's the way? I mean, this is a question, not a snark. Is that what other teams do?
I think every team
they have a football czar who decides that the defensive coordinator didn't do the job. He's out.
I think every team is structured differently.
Because I feel like the way that happens around the league is either there's a difference of opinion from the head coach down, which I think is kind of what happened in Miami with Vic Fangio. I think there was sort of a clash between philosophies between McDaniel and Vic Fangio, and that's why he left. He was out. I think what also can happen is, I think what happened in Philadelphia.
Well, Robinson and Vrabel in Tennessee. They had a clash, and Vrabel won, and I assume somebody over both of them decided who wins this battle.
Right.
The owner,
They
right?
sided. The owner sided with Vrabel.
I don't get it.
Hired a GM in Carthon. Carthon came in, sidled up to the owner, and said, "This guy isn't cutting it." And then the owner sided with Carthon and whacked Vrabel.
So right. So
yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you got to make changes on your coaching staff.
Okay.
So I think what the other way it happens is like in Philadelphia, where the owner goes to Nick Sirianni and says, "I don't care what you do, but you got to make changes. That wasn't good enough." And they have a new offensive and defensive coordinator this year. My guess is that's what's going to happen here.
Well,
that's my guess. Do I know that? Absolutely not.
Well,
no idea.
Let's turn the question to Fred. You know, do the Crafts want to sit there and say we're gonna independently go in and say that, or do they go to Gerard first? How would you review the year, and what kind of changes do you want to make?
Yep.
And let Gerard say, I want to see something else here. I want to see something else here. And unless if he doesn't say the right things, that's maybe where ownership has to get involved and say.
And what I worry,
Matt. I think that's how it will unfold.
But what I worry about is how do they know if he's saying the right things? What information do they have? You know.
Well, he'd have to convince them that all these guys deserve a second chance.
And is Gerard
Mayo?
Is
Gerard gonna be a hard sell, Paul?
Yep.
And is Gerard Mayo ready to evaluate what kind of job AVP did on offense? I mean, a self-admitted guy who I don't really know offense all that well.
He's the coach of the offense.
So they asked me at my chinwag and the other station, does Drake Mays sort of going for bat for Alex Van Pelt, should that weigh in on it? I personally think no.
No, what else is he going to say?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
He's got to have his back.
Yeah.
You know? All right, let's go to, let me just see who's been waiting the longest. Let's go to CM in West Virginia. CM, you're next on the Patriots Postgame Show, and that's presented by DraftKings. Hi, CM.
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for letting me call in. It's my first call in.
Nice.
And on the calamity aspect, I know it's been thrown around a ton. In my personal opinion, I think today's game was abysmal and grotesque. And I'll even go as far to say I'm hoping this offseason, next week after the Bills game, or that there's some old school Major League, the movie type deal where there's red cards on who's going to be a Patriot going into the offseason. I know you can't do that, but I mean, I'm really looking at this season from the standpoint I have now, looking back, as this was kind of a preseason. Who's going to make the roster for next year? I feel like this is all just tryouts. And I don't think that there was any plan going into today's game based on what I saw on the field.
Thanks for the call, Sam. And there's some merit to what he says. Was 2024 determined by all the decision makers? We know we're going to stink. Let's see what we got. Kirsch is in. Dussault's out. We'll figure it out, and we're going to play for 2025. Could that be a part of the plan, and they're going to punt the season away?
No, I mean, look, we did that in 2020. Like, it's just you're burning your second season in like 4 years. Like, that doesn't seem
like something that ownership would be signing up for.
Does it make any sense to forget about, like, they not only retained so many of their own free agents, but then they extended other guys that weren't up. So does that make sense that I'm identifying? I mean, Mike, you have the numbers. You have your spreadsheet with the roster. Upwards of 15 guys. You went out of your way. You didn't have to. You went out of your way to make sure these guys are going to be here next year.
Yep.
And you punted on the season? You just wanted to see what you had? No.
Right.
No.
Doesn't make any sense.
I think what they were trying to do was establish
culture.
some culture. You know, establish
with
who
guys they were familiar with.
Who are my locker room guys? Who's going to be my leaders? Let's reward them. Let's incentivize them. And it didn't work.
So as a next step on that,
a lot of them got hurt.
Right. As the next step on that, Fred, we misevaluated on X. We thought he was going to be one of our key core guys. He's not. Out. Let's keep going down the list.
That could happen.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think they went into the season hoping for the best, hoping that they'd get May out in the field eventually and he'd show signs of the future, and that, things would be okay.
Yeah, the question I keep going back to is what's reasonable to expect from Gerard Mayo, who never coached a team before? That's just, I don't know why I didn't try to establish that baseline in my head. What was acceptable? The guy's never coached a football team, at any level. What's acceptable? What do you need to see from him this year as a guy who's never coached before?
And what's reasonable to expect?
Is it too much to expect that the team would have an identity?
And that's a great question. I think that gets
I
to
would
the heart
say
of
that
it.
today-
I don't think that's too much to expect. And I don't think it's too much to expect him to not make the same mistakes every week.
It's hard. It's hard to establish an identity when the coach himself doesn't have one. At least if he had been a coordinator, his defense or his offense would have had an identity, and because of that success, he became a head coach. He had none of that. He had no identity coming in, except for, we were told, he was Little Bill. He's a student of the game. He loved to study film.
Connects with people.
And he's a leader of men.
Yeah.
But that came more from 2 years at Optum than anything else.
Yeah.
So it wasn't fair to anyone.
No.
And then surrounding him with other people that weren't in those jobs as well.
Exactly.
A rookie defensive coordinator, a rookie offensive coordinator and play caller.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a tough combination to expect success.
A guy who never
even improvement.
A guy who's never been a head line coach before.
Correct.
I'll tell you something that I never would have envisioned. And when you go back in the off-season shows on Patriots Unfiltered, and there's a million different things people call in, what if X, Y, and Z happens? What would you say? And Fred and I, we always say, I kind of need to see how it unfolds first. But I never, ever would have envisioned feeling this good and this sort of promising about the quarterback and being in this situation. I never would have envisioned being 3-13 and having the quarterback sort of definitively answer the question, is he your guy going forward?
Right, because we said in that scenario, boy,
you're going to win more than 3 games if that happens.
Right, and if you don't, then he's probably contributing to the losses.
And I never would have envisioned feeling as good as I do about May, but yet I don't feel any better about the big picture.
To be fair, he did contribute to some of the losses.
He did.
With all the turnovers.
Yeah.
No question.
He did.
But you're hoping that he corrects that next year.
It's but the thing with Mayo, though, is you said, he's a leader of men. It's well, what makes a great football coach? And, I just go back. Does he have the answers to the test? I mean, I think that's if you're going to be a good coach, you're going to tell the players what's going to happen before it's going to happen, or you're going to identify what we need to do to win games. And how do you know if a coach has that unless they've demonstrated it before? You can't just take a guy that seems like a leader of men and, seems like he has a good understanding of the game and then expect that he's going to step into a coaching position and be able to decipher what opponents are doing to them, translate it for his players, and then motivate them and to be able to execute against what they're going to try to do. And it's really hard to understand that if you haven't seen it before.
Let me play devil's advocate with you. What if you think you've identified the leader of men as your CEO of the coaching staff, who doesn't need to have all the answers of the test because his defensive coordinator has the answers to the test on defense, and his offensive coordinator has the answers to the offense. That hasn't happened.
Yeah.
You surround a guy like that. It's the old adage I go to. I don't know. It's a great comp. Larry Bird, rookie coach for the Indiana Pacers. His first hire was Dick Harder, who was a defensive coordinator. He ran the defense for him. Old school guy, much older than Bird. Gerard doesn't have that kind of support around him.
That was. I know that was a fear among a lot of people here, right from the get-go, that Mayo doesn't have the support.
Yeah.
But here's
he's got support. Is it the right?
Is it the right support? Here's another, homework thing. And I know at one point it was not a good record, but look at all the people that work for Bill, that either got promoted or left for a higher job, and how many of them did well.
Not many.
I don't think a lot did, and you can't underestimate the hold that Belichick had on everything. In that all you really had to do was listen to him, and you'd do okay. But without him there, it's been hard for a lot of these guys. You go down the list, Josh McDaniels, and you name them.
I just to get back to what you kind of got back to me. I don't like it. I don't like it. I want the head coach to imprint on the team.
Well, that's fair, Mike. That's absolutely fair.
And that's, and I watched a little of the Hard Knocks behind the scenes, and it's the first time I'm getting to see Mike Tomlin and how he talks to a team. And it's the same kind of stuff you saw from Bill, where he watches film and he picks up what he picks up, and he says, these are the key things that we have to stop. We have to be ready to counter this. And I just wonder, as a team, does that work with a CEO who's going to just be the hype man? I'm going to get everybody, let's go. We're going to go to them to know what the scheme.
He should be in charge of the defense. And I'm not talking about calling plays and all that, but these guys, to the point that you guys are making, Matt and Fred, Sean McVay immediately gets Wade Phillips.
That's right.
When he was a young coach,
great comp.
Offense is my side. I got the offense. I'm going to get an offensive coordinator. I'm going to teach him this is what we're going to do. Wade, you're going to handle the defense. That's what it should be right now.
Right.
Alex Van Pelt, I had no problem. A lot of people have sort of been critical of Mayo using that term, Alex Van Pelt is the head coach of offense.
Yeah.
No,
I have no problem with that.
No.
Right. I have no problem with that.
Just hasn't worked.
No, well, I just don't think they have the right guys yet, to do what they want to do, whether it's the receivers, the offensive line. There's a lot of shortcomings all over the place. Then I think we can more fairly evaluate the coaches a little bit better, but unfortunately, it's a tough business, and I don't know if everybody's going to get an opportunity to do that.
But even veterans like Greg Roman, offensive coordinator, Harbaugh has him now, right? Or what is it?
Yeah. Greg Roman's the Chargers offensive coordinator.
Right, Harbaugh is a seasoned coach, and he even says, you know what? Why screw with it? I know this guy. Right. I know he's good. I'm taking him with me.
Right.
Mike, I want to push back a little bit on Tomlin, and I've watched a little bit of Hard Knocks, which is very good, by the way. But how many years has Tomlin been in that job? Okay, we're talking double figures now, right? What kind of coach do you think he was when he started there? I think Mike Tomlin is the definition of a leader of men. I think guys run through a wall for Mike Tomlin. I don't know what kind of tactician he was when he first started there.
He was kind of a joke. Remember him going out in the field and running into a guy when he was on a kick return or something like that?
Right. Try to trip Jacoby Jones.
Try to trip him?
Right, but he's been, because of the success that they've had, he's been allowed to grow into that role. And now I think he's better apt at saying, I'm going to look at the Bengals and go, here's what we got to do. We got to take Chase out.
But what did they always have in Pittsburgh? They had good coordinators, and they had a very strong GM.
Very good personnel.
Yeah. I think it's a fair point. I just wonder if Gerard Mayo is way behind where Mike Tomlin was when he started.
Well, was Tomlin a coordinator before he took the Pittsburgh job? I think he was, yeah. Dylan in Michigan, you're up next on the Patriots Postgame Show presented by DraftKings. Hi, Dylan.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. So that was obviously a bad performance by the team. Each week when I've watched them play, seeing the offensive line, I'm reminded about how Elliott Wolf before the season told us that there's no problem with the offensive line, even though, everybody else seeing it apparently besides him. Another point I wanted to make, I think defensively we have a better roster than is on the offense. And I think the defense is way underperforming, and I think the offense is overperforming for what they have. I'd just like to see what you guys say about that.
Appreciate the phone call, Dylan. And I on the Elliott thing, those comments from Elliott in August have not aged well. No. I don't think Elliott said we're all set on the offensive line. I think as he was trying to bump up these guys and maybe give them a little confidence, he probably overshared with that. And I said his comments haven't aged very well.
No.
They don't look good. Okay?
No.
But I also think he was trying to bump up his guys and try to make it seem like they were better than they were. It hasn't worked out.
Yeah. I think the guys that he was talking about aren't here.
They aren't. Cheek.
And that's
right?
on him.
Yeah.
But I would say that I disagree with both those elements. I don't think the talent on defense is any better than the talent on offense, and I don't think the offense has overperformed.
No. Colin in Seattle, Washington asks, how much stock do we put into this team's apparent ineptitude when it comes to stacking, in quotation marks, good performances? That, to me, is the most glaring deficiency when it comes to this coaching staff. There's no carryover following a somewhat promising performance. They failed to put together 2 consecutive respectable performances this season. How can they possibly move forward with the same leadership next season? So, Fred, I want to go.
Deshaun had this call earlier.
Yeah,
I think he nails it.
So
they can't stack performances because they're not good enough to stack performances.
Right. So that's my concern as I said that. And Fred is telling me, and the sage wisdom of the great one here is saying all of those comments and those questions and those emails have a maybe not so thinly veiled rationale behind them. They are demanding change.
Yes.
So their arguments are all tilted to get rid of everybody.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I just don't think any of the performances have been that good. I mean, a couple games where you had a good drive or two, that doesn't qualify as a good performance to me. It's regression to the mean.
Even like probably their best game of the year was Chicago, right? Offensively, they weren't really that good in that game.
Not at all.
You know, defensively, they were. They got all over a rookie quarterback and made him look silly. They sacked him 9 times. But
10 straight losses for the Bears.
Yeah, I don't think it. I think even the good performances weren't as good as people think they were.
Co-conspirators.
Let's put it that way.
This is Sultan who is writing in. I've been a fan of your show since the start of the draft. With Drake May and followed through with each game. I want to say that I haven't seen such a dysfunctional team that is now cultivated into a calamity. There's the C word again. There's no accountability from Gerard Mayo, nothing from Alex Van Pelt. The defense was atrocious. The only thing we can agree on is that Drake May is an evolving quarterback. I like that description, by the way. There needs to be some kind of change, and I hope that Mayo goes and we hire Mike Vrabel or someone capable that can understand as a team we need to go back to winning Super Bowls. How about let's win games before we win Super Bowls, Sultan? That's just my editorial on that one.
Yeah. We need to get back to winning Super Bowls. I second that motion.
Nah. I agree.
It's a long way
Can they
to
win
go.
4 games? Before we hit the break, let's go to Pat Nagawan for a little post-game analysis from Pat. You're next on the Patriots post-game show presented by DraftKings. Hi, Pat.
What's up, Jen?
Hey, Patty.
Hey, so you gave me 3 things to discuss in the pregame, so I want to touch on 3 things in the postgame too, and I'll make them quick. First thing, Deuce, you're right. This is rock bottom. This is, and to me, the Miami game was rock bottom. For me, this was worse than that. The second thing was...
So it proves my point. You don't know rock bottom until it's over.
Right. You don't know a schedule.
But it feels
good
pretty
until
rock
it's over.
bottomy.
Right. And I'm not talking about in the 2024 season. Like if they go out like week 2 next year and lose 58-2, is that rock bottom? No, you're still in it.
Kansas City 14 was rock bottom until it wasn't.
Right. That was rock bottom.
Right.
Hopefully, Paul, next year we're not having this discussion of rock bottom because, like you said, you know, and PU, I don't know if it was this past week or the week before, when you start getting better, you'll know when rock bottom was. And I'm hoping that this is it, you know. But, like, the second thing I want to say is when I'm watching Herbert operate, I'm thinking to myself, this is how I want Drake May to look in, like, year 3. Like, because he was...
Here, Patty.
Pardon me?
Here. I'm with you on that.
That's how he looked in year 1.
He was
Herbert.
Drake May was the balls today. Like, not Drake May, but Justin Herbert was the balls today.
Yeah.
And the third thing I'm going to put out there, Paul, you might want you're probably going to want to come after me after I say this. Like Jonathan Jones was bad today. The secondary was bad today. I think Isaiah Bolden, at least from like what I watched on TV today, was not that bad.
He had a tackle for loss.
He had a tackle for loss. That's why Mike and I included that on our good list.
Compete level.
He had a good play.
Yeah.
He also got away with pass interference in the end zone. But
Pat, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to take a
playlist.
have we taken a break yet?
Yeah, we
did.
took.
Sorry
we
about
did
that.
take one.
Thank you, Matt. I apologize for that. Let's go back to the electronic mail. No, because we're going to get to Mayo in a second.
You run a
here.
tight ship, Matt.
I'm just trying to see if I can figure out how to post the email. OMG, the worst game of the year from Diana in Summers Wirt, New Hampshire. Well, that was brutal to watch. Has to be our worst game of this year. I had been on the fence about our coaches, but after this pathetic game, no way it can be just the players. We need to wipe the slate clean. Your thoughts? Best part of the game is the pre and the post game shows. Thank you. That's from Diane in Summers Wirt.
So when people say that, like, blow it all up, do they realize the task ahead of somebody if they do that? Like, to reassemble a front office and coaching staff in one off season?
It's the answer that I keep with all these people that want to fire this one or fire that one. That's a great idea if you want to do that. Do you have somebody better to replace them with?
Yeah.
Because it isn't just getting rid of somebody. You want to improve.
What's the plan?
What is your plan in
Would you
doing
do
that?
it for Ben Johnson?
This is not going to be a popular take. No.
Okay. I would.
If not him, who?
Ben Johnson is going to be the apple of a lot of teams' eyes.
It would make it would.
Oh, that's a different argument. Can you get him? I ask you, would you do it for Ben Johnson?
For me, it'd make it much easier of a thing with Ben Johnson if I sit down with him and ask him, who are you bringing with you?
Correct.
And if he has good answers, then it makes it a much easier decision.
Yeah.
I'm saying if you decide that you're moving on, you've decided this guy ain't the answer.
Yeah.
So I'm not telling you it's easy,
Yeah.
because the thought of starting all over is daunting to me. But I understand why people, like Diana, I understand that mentality.
Yeah.
Like evidently you had on the blog today, Freddie. I get why, you heard a smattering of it in the stands, not not loud, but you heard the people are upset. People are like that they don't believe in it.
And think about
they don't believe in what they're watching.
Think about the stability that we've all been able to witness here for such a long period of time. And we know, because we've heard it from ownership themselves, how important stability is. It's the last thing that they want to be able to do.
Right.
The last thing they want.
Something I'd like to
Like,
know.
who's conducting the search?
Right. Yeah.
Elliot Wolf?
Fred, I think you should treat it like wide receiver.
Yeah.
And you identify the next guy.
The meatball falls. You know what I'd like to know, though?
He's disrespectful.
I know.
He lashes out. He's
as the
disrespectful.
meatball falls.
Just because I don't dress like a first grade principal,
And you're not like concentrating on your music in your late 40s.
Paul, music is a wonderful thing, and it brings a lot of joy to people.
That was my resolution.
I know.
You know my resolution that I could pick for someone else. Mike, I want to encourage him to
we
work
played
on
well
his
off of that. I'd like to know, though, when coaching staff changed like last year did, how big is the staff? How big is the football staff? How many people were Belichick people that stayed, and how many people were new people that came in? And usually when this kind of thing happens in other organizations, are there a similar amount of people holdovers, be it on the coaching staff, scouting staff, et cetera? I'm sure you don't usually fire everyone when a coach leaves. That's just something I wonder about. Is there some kind of, maybe internal kind of conflict between holdovers and new people? And
in order to do
numbers
it,
are on the bottom of that flip chart.
In order to compare apples to apples, you have to look at another coach who has no network.
Right.
Yeah,
because he had no network.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know that the next coach doesn't have a network?
No, I'm just saying, like, if he wanted to do his little assignment and compare who were the holdovers on our staff compared to other staffs, like, is that coach that came in on the other staff, is he been in the league for a while, and does he have a network? Gerard Mayo had no network.
That's a great point. I'd be curious if other NFL teams look at it and be like, they're going to keep Bill's defensive staff, but they're getting rid of everybody, or they're going to keep Bill's scouts.
I personally think that's
else?
rare. That as many guys stayed on this
Yeah.
team.
I bet you it was 50%, Paul. I bet you it was a 50% retention.
But that's kind of the point.
50%
That's
of
the
new
point.
blood.
If you have a
Totally
network,
agree.
People actually, I hear them make fun of it. Oh, it's an old boys network. You see the same. There's a reason for that because they're trusted. You know what they can do. And it's hard to just build a
Pellegrino,
staff in a year.
Belichick, Covington, and Mayo. Like that's 4 guys that stayed. Like I bet you that's rare. I bet you like when there's a coaching change around the league, I think for the most part it's totally new.
Yeah.
What about the scouting staff? Like that's what I'm interested in too.
From what I know, I don't think there might have been some new people on the lower level, but at higher level, I don't think they made any changes.
Yeah, I agree.
It's most of the same. We'll take one more call before maybe we hit Gerard, and let's go to Jared, not Gerard, in North Carolina. Jared, you're next on the Patriots Postgame Show presented by DraftKings. Hi, Jared.
Hey, guys. I guess my biggest wonder is, like, where do we even go? Like, if we're firing coordinators, like, who is Gerard going to hire?
Right. That's a good question.
That's the question, Jared.
And then on top of that, I feel like most of this is on the GM. And what GM is going to come in here if they can't pick their own coach? Like, I have a friend that's a Washington Commanders fan. They got a new GM, they got a new coach, new quarterback, and I guess they're probably the outlier, but they got a GM that got to pick their coach. Like, I just feel like you guys are wondering who like should be it, but like that's the Kraft's problem to figure out which GM to hire, and then that GM's going to find the coach, and then like this is all going to.
Yeah, that's one scenario. It doesn't happen all the time in every organization like that, but that's one way to do it. You let the GM pick the coach, but
I mean, I think he's right. I think it's hard to get a quality candidate if he's not going to have a say in the coach.
Yeah.
Patriots lose 40-7 to the Los Angeles Chargers. They are 3-13 on the year. After the game, here's the head coach, Gerard Mayo.
Good evening. There's nothing really, this is what I told the players, there's really nothing good to take out of that game today. just the lack of execution. Look, that's a good football team, and they're a well-coached football team. We just didn't play well enough in any phase of the game. No complimentary football, and that's what you get. Fire away.
Gerard, after what you guys were able to do in Buffalo, a short week and a lot of talk about coming out strong. How disappointing, frustrating, surprising is this effort from your team today?
That's very disappointing, and it comes back to consistency. I mean, that's what it is, consistency.
Gerard, before the game, you said on the radio that Antonio Gibson would start at running back, and then Ramondre was on the field. What went into the last-minute change there?
That was just a coach's decision. Coach's decision.
Can I just follow up on that, Gerard? Did something change from the time you did the interview to the game to lead that, or was there a miscommunication that maybe the message wasn't handed down?
I understand your question, Mike. Look, it's a coach's decision. So I'll leave it at that.
Gerard, you and DeMarcus have ascribed your defensive struggles this year to fundamentals, run fits, and tackling. The Chargers just became the third team to score their season high in points against you, so it looks like the defense has regressed. What gives you confidence that this defensive coaching staff is suited to develop this defense next season?
Look, I have nothing but confidence in the coaching staff, and look, we'll get better, and it's part of what we have to do. So I have to look at the film to see what some of those things that you're talking about happen on the field, but look, we got to get better.
Gerard, just curious, I do see Drake over there, but obviously Drake has suffered the head injury, had to be evaluated for one in the first quarter. You guys are down by 30 in the fourth quarter, and you sent him out there for 2 drives. How much thought was there to pulling him from that game down 30 and trying to protect him?
Again, look, we're trying to develop a quarterback, and he wants to play. He's a competitor. He went out there.
Gerard, with one game
Oh, sorry.
With one game left, how much pressure do you feel, and do you feel like you and your coordinators are coaching for your jobs?
Look, I'm always under pressure, and it's been that way for a very long time, not just when I became a head coach of the Patriots. I'm okay. Look, and again, I always do what's best for the team.
Gerard, the fans at home have never been shy about expressing their thoughts about the team. We've heard it with Mac and we heard it with Bailey. Were you cognizant of the chants that were being directed at you towards the end of the game today?
Look, you hear those things, but at the same time, look, they paid to sit in the seats, and we got to play better. And if we play better, we don't have to hear that stuff. So,
Gerard, can you describe for us the play where there was the fumble on the pitch from Drake, and what was the design of that play?
Yeah, look, I have to watch the film to see what exactly happened, but just the exchange obviously was the problem there. It was a turnover.
Gerard, a consistent message with you each week has been we have to get better, we have to get better, we have to pick things up. Obviously, it feels like this may be trending in the wrong direction. Do you see it that way? And, what point do you feel like you need to see it get better?
Yeah, to me, every game is unique. It's a game in itself. And look, I said at the beginning of this press conference, it's about consistency, which we are not right now.
Two final questions.
Hi, Gerard. I was just curious. It looked like on that field goal right before halftime, some of the players were signaling that it wasn't actually a good kick. I was curious kind of what you saw on that and your thoughts about that whole play.
Yeah, to me, it really, it didn't matter what anyone saw. They look at all the scoring plays and they caught it good, and we just got to be able to move forward.
Kai, last question. Do you see this being, after this game, do you see this being more of a talent issue or a coaching issue? Because you did say that you've got full confidence in the staff.
Yeah, I have full confidence in the staff. I have full confidence in the players in there. I think, again, it just comes down to being consistent across the board.
There's the head coach, Gerard Mayo. The press conferences are presented by Microsoft Surface. A big thank you to our partner, Microsoft Surface, the official sideline technology provider and laptop of the NFL, and the New England Patriots, that provides players and coaches with the tools to succeed both on and off the field. Check out the new Surface Pro, designed to keep up with you as the most flexible, most powerful 2-in-1 laptop and tablet out there at surface.com.
Do you think all the questions that needed to be asked were asked in that press conference?
I would have kept the field goal question in my pocket, but other than that, they talked about the fumble. They talked about playing Drake at the end.
Yeah.
They talked about not being able to string games together. They talked about Gibson versus Ramondre.
Yeah.
What about I miss?
Yeah, I thought that
Coaching
they were all
versus
touched on.
talent.
My guess is there probably would have been some follow-ups and stuff. Brief press conference.
Yeah, very
I
brief.
thought.
Yep.
But yeah, I think they hit on all the.
Okay.
No
So,
adjustments.
was there something
on defense? Like
Yeah,
7
like-
straight drives, scoring drives. No adjustments. No ability
Yeah,
to
that's
change
why I said
or
like
stem
some
the tide.
follow-ups probably would have been
Yeah.
called. That's a good one, Mike. That would have been a good follow-up.
I didn't even go to journalism school.
No, you probably would have had a hard time asking it though.
He
'cause
definitely
you're not trained.
He definitely looked like a beaten head coach.
Weary,
beaten down, frustrated.
The same joie de vivre that Mayo has had,
joie de vivre.
in training camp, and maybe light coming into the room and everything like that.
Yeah.
That guy is he's not around any longer. I think the seriousness in the
Yeah.
performance and everything, you can see it weighing on him.
Yeah, and our puzzlement about the whole Dre versus Gibson thing, I think we didn't get any answer there.
No.
He said it was just a coach's decision. Something happened.
Well,
something happened
I
in
think
that
you did get
90
it.
minutes that made him change his mind.
I think you did get an answer. I think how he looked when he responded to that
He was
question.
pissed. Yeah.
And there was a follow-up. Reese did get the follow-up on that.
Yeah.
And you could tell that something happened. Something did happen. It's not we don't know what happened, but there was something to make him change his mind.
Yeah. Like Mike, I understand your question, but
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I just think we were speculating a little bit, and you were saying maybe Gibson came late. Well, how would you feel if you're like Gibson and this guy's fumbled 7 times and I'm 2 minutes late? And you're gonna yank my chance to get a start.
Well,
I bet it was.
we don't know if that's the.
No, I know.
Or if you're Stevenson and you say, I fumbled, but he fumbled too. Why am I losing my job? It's. I could see. But these are the kinds of things that happen
on bad teams.
Yep.
Nicholas from South Korea writes in, I've been following the Patriots all my life. This one's for you, Marine Corps. And I've been tuning into your show since 2022 when my family and I were stationed in South Korea with the Army. I've watched every single game this season, but after this, I can't do it anymore. Anyway, I'm deploying for training mission within the U.S., not overseas, where I'll be living in the desert without any outside contact for the next 35 days.
Oh.
I think it's much needed because I can't take this season anymore. Thank you all for the great candid coverage this season. So imagine yourself here for a second.
I know. And he's gonna.
You're looking forward to 35 isolated days in the desert where you don't
Right.
have to sit there and talk about whether or not they have a pass rush or the defensive backs can cover.
There's going to be a day. And,
He's looking for a break from that.
It's going to be a day
I
in
kind of
early.
need that.
There's going to be a day in early
Go to
February.
Arizona for 35 days.
He emerges from the desert and he's like, "All right, so what happened in that last Patriots game?"
Right. Rhino,
Tell me.
But before, can I go back to the Dre Gibson thing?
Yeah.
Complete conjecture. Don't know anything. But what if Mayo does the interview, comes back, okay, Gibson's starting, and Alex Van Pelt says, no, he's not. Ramondre's starting. I'm the head coach of the offense. and I don't give an F.
Drama.
Ramondre's starting. What if that happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would. That's not good.
I mean, I
good.
speculated more just miscommunication. What if AVP didn't get the message that Ramondre is going to grab some wood there for the first possession?
There's not a great answer to this
No.
question.
No.
Anyone you look at is not good.
But this is what I mean about having the info. Does the people that are ultimately, and I mean the craft,
Talking about ownership.
do they have that info? Are
Right.
they demanding an answer to that?
Oh, I think there's going to be some demanding if
Yeah.
there already isn't.
Well, there will. I mean,
think there's going to be some demanding.
it's another him stepping in it, in a
Yep.
press conference.
Rhino in Durham, North Carolina is next on the Patriots postgame show presented by DraftKings. Hi, Rhino.
Hey, fellas, thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I think you guys were hitting at something important in that the head coach doesn't necessarily need to be the best X's and O's guy or control kind of the strategic game plan, but they at least need to establish an identity and culture, and that's what's been kind of frustrating through the season as a fan. It's almost like some of the criticisms in the press or amongst fans make their way into game plans the next week. We're not aggressive when we need to be aggressive, or we're inconsistently aggressive. I don't know what kind of identity he's established, and everybody reaches for this Dan Campbell comparison with bad first years, but at least the Lions were losing with aggressiveness and some kind of consistency.
Toughness.
And week to week, there just isn't that with any decision-making from the coaching staff.
Very well put, Rhino.
Yeah.
Very well put.
I mean, if I'm hiring a head coach and I've got a bunch of candidates, I'm assuming that they've risen to the level of being considered because they know how to play football. They know X's and O's.
Yep.
I want to know what happens when the phone rings at 3 o'clock and your star wide receiver just got arrested, or what happens
with the defensive back that you just re-signed to an extension just got it.
I want to know. I want to know how he's going to handle situations. I want to know about him, like what his track record is, what his pedigree is. Does this guy have, tendencies that he's going to bring to this team? He's right. It's less when you get to the head coach level. It's really less about the X's and O's.
Correct.
I wonder too if Mayo's battling some self-doubt. I mean, that's how do you know you're a good coach? Until you
he's pretty confident,
actually
Mike.
prove it.
But I would think that confidence, as confident as he is, and I think he has a right to be confident. And he carries himself with confidence. You need to show that you're still the guy in charge. But I wonder if a little bit that's been just knocked off kilter, just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he talks so much about how he's wanted to get his own ship, and we've heard from him for a couple of years about this. But it's like when I briefly coached club hockey. Like you don't know if players are going to respond to you. You don't know if you're going to push the right buttons or if guys are going to see something in you and take advantage of you. And it was a big worry I had of trying to coach people. It's part of the challenge that you don't know those special people who have that special sauce that rallies people around them and gets guys to play above themselves and play together.
What did Jimmy Williams say to Joey Marcino?
Braintree Little League.
Yeah.
What Little League team did you coach?
Yeah.
Braintree Little League.
That was a good one. Eldred in North Carolina, you'll be last on the call machine. This is the Patriots postgame show presented by DraftKings. Hi, Eldred.
Hey, Mike. Hey, fellas. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Thanks, Eldred.
I appreciate the personalized shout out.
Well, I was working and I was watching a little bit, but if I wasn't working, probably be at the bar and halfway drunk by now.
Oh.
Because I ain't never seen a team play with less heart and less emotion, less fire than they did at that game right there.
You got some Quentin Johnston
no heart,
catches, though.
No desire, no nothing. That's what I look at.
Okay.
But I also want to comment with the commentator that was calling the game, and he said it's a roster problem. It's talent.
Yeah.
They don't have Jack besides two.
Okay.
He named them, Gunzo and May, and I agree with him 100%.
Yep. Thanks for the call. Thank you, Eldred.
So Eldred brings up a good point, and that was Ross Tucker again.
Yes.
We talked about it 2 weeks ago. And where do you think Ross Tucker got that? Do you think in the production meetings that maybe Gerard Mayo said, we got a bad roster?
Right. The only thing is let me try not to go the conspiracy route. Ross Tucker follows the league. He's on Sirius. He's now doing TV games and everything like that. I don't think you have to be Bobby Beathard to look at this roster and say they're not very good.
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
Did he get maybe led down the aisle with a couple of little pebbles or something like that? Maybe.
I think so.
But I also,
he said
don't
it
overrate
himself.
this.
Yeah.
He's a Princeton guy. He's not a dummy.
No, I know.
He's kind of a
Mayo
big mouth,
said that himself earlier in the year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a talent problem.
Yeah.
Jerome,
right? What's the problem? The roster.
Right. Jerome in Pennsylvania says rock bottom. In my editorializing, he does not mean the restaurant downtown. Hello, Jerome from Pennsylvania here. Pats fan since 1970. This is rock bottom. Look at the brain trust that's going to run the draft and free agency. They should be fired immediately. Thanks for getting me through one of the worst seasons I can remember.
Fire everybody.
The firing
Fire
squad
everyone.
everywhere.
Everybody.
Everywhere.
Blow it up.
Yeah, I say this all the time. I'm not a huge fan of calling for everyone's job. I get it. I know why people are doing it, but it's
blow it up. Who's putting it all together again?
Yeah.
Not me.
It's hard.
You're
You're
overlord?
Yeah.
Overlord.
Right?
But I don't know.
It's a lot of work.
Last email is from Jake in Wisconsin.
They got
This one's
criticized for
Fred.
calling around about the offense.
Right. As we wrap up the season, the biggest concern for me is the same issue we've had for years, absolute inability to draft. I understand that this most recent draft is under a new regime, but I just don't know that we have anyone in the building capable of properly identifying offensive talent. With our inability to sign free agents with high taxes, cold weather, and not an attractive roster, we have to nail the draft. Every time Ladd had a catch was just salt in the wound. Baker without a catch. Was there one target to Baker and one target to Polk today? Did I see those correctly?
Yep. They got in at the very end.
Yep.
Yeah.
I saw one to Polk. I don't remember one to Baker.
Baker had one. He should have caught it.
Yeah.
He should have caught
Really?
it. Really? Yep.
From Brissett?
The guy was right behind him, but he was in front of the guy. The ball was right there, and he let it go through his hands.
The final today from Foxborough, no joy in Mudville. The Patriots lose a tough one, 40-7 to the Los Angeles Chargers, who clinch a playoff spot. In doing so, the Patriots fall to 3-13. They are locked in right now at the number 2 spot currently in the draft. For a host of people, Matt and Matt behind the glass, Josh and Nick and Dave and Anthony on the video end of it. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. We'll see you next week when the Patriots wrap up the season at home against the division champs, the Buffalo Bills.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.